ADA Cardano price prediction 2026. Can Cardano reclaim $1? In 2021, ADA climbed above $3, making Cardano one of the most highly anticipated projects in the market. However, when crypto entered the 2022 winter, ADA also plunged and lost most of the gains it had previously achieved. As the market began to recover, both established and newer altcoins recorded impressive rallies. ADA also managed to climb back above $1 in 2025, but it failed to maintain its momentum and eventually fell below this level once again. So what is preventing Cardano from achieving a sustainable recovery? And could 2026 deliver a different outcome for ADA? Crypto Radar will break down all of these questions in today's video. Let's get started and find out whether the $1 level is truly within Cardano's reach or whether it is still too early to expect such a recovery. Crypto Radar. To determine whether ADA can reclaim $1 in 2026, we first need to understand why the coin lost this important price level. ADA's decline was not simply the result of a typical bearish cycle. It also reflected the widening gap between market expectations and the actual pace of development across the Cardano ecosystem. The story began in September 2021, when ADA reached an all-time high of approximately $3.10, and its market capitalization surpassed $90 billion, making Cardano Coin one of the largest crypto assets in the market. However, this valuation was not based solely on what Cardano had already built. A large part of the rally was driven by expectations surrounding the network's smart contract launch. Investors believed that DeFi, NFTs, and a wide range of decentralized applications would quickly emerge, allowing Cardano to become a genuine competitor to Ethereum. This confidence created highly positive expectations surrounding the ADA Cardano price prediction narrative, pushing the Cardano ADA price sharply higher before the ecosystem had enough time to produce meaningful real-world results. However, in crypto, prices can rise very quickly on expectations and fall just as sharply when those expectations are not fulfilled at the right time. When the market entered a downturn in 2022, liquidity rapidly moved away from altcoins, while the Cardano ecosystem had not expanded quickly enough to support its previous valuation. As a result, ADA fell below $1 and remained under this level for most of the 2022 to 2024 period. Although Cardano continued to develop, ADA's recovery attempts were largely driven by broader market trends and were not strong enough to reverse its long-term bearish structure. It was not until late 2024 and early 2025, when the crypto market recovered, that ADA climbed back above $1 and reached a local high of approximately $1.30. For a broader look at ADA's price trend and the key scenarios to watch in the third quarter of 2026, check out Crypto Radar's Cardano ADA Price Prediction Q3 2026 video. That analysis will provide additional context before we explore whether ADA can reclaim and maintain the $1 level. ADA's return above $1 showed that the asset could still attract attention when market conditions were favorable. However, the price was unable to remain above this level for long or establish a sufficiently strong support zone. When buying pressure weakened, selling pressure quickly returned and pushed ADA back below $1. This is an important distinction in any ADA Cardano price prediction analysis. Temporarily reaching a price level is completely different from truly reclaiming it and maintaining a position above it. At the time Crypto Radar is producing this Cardano price analysis, ADA is trading at approximately 16 cents. From its current price, the journey back to $1 would require a significant rally. The key question now is whether the Cardano updates planned for 2026 will be strong enough to create a new growth narrative that could help ADA reclaim the $1 level and remain above it. And that is exactly what Crypto Radar will examine in the next section. The previous Cardano analysis showed that the project's difficulties are not the result of Cardano stopping development. The real issue is that its technical progress has yet to translate into enough adoption, liquidity, and demand to help ADA Coin remain sustainably above $1. Therefore, if Cardano wants to support a more positive ADA Cardano price prediction narrative in 2026, it will need more than technical upgrades or long-term promises. The project must turn its available resources into actual products, users, and real economic activity. One advantage Cardano has is its own treasury system, which can provide funding for ecosystem development. During the 2026 budget process, 69 proposals requested a combined total of approximately 331.6 million ADA. Of these, the Cardano Foundation voted in favor of 28 proposals with a combined budget of more than 115 million ADA. This demonstrates that the ecosystem can mobilize its own resources to invest in infrastructure, applications, and new projects. One of the most notable investments is IOG's Treasury proposal requesting 27.7 million to develop Ouroboros Laos from a testnet prototype into a mainnet-ready release candidate by late 2026. Through a phased rollout, Laos is expected to safely increase Cardano's throughput capacity by between 10 and 65 times. However, a faster network only creates value when there are enough users, assets, and transactions that actually need that additional capacity. Therefore, in addition to expanding its infrastructure, Cardano must address another major weakness: liquidity. The Cardano Foundation announced plans to deploy an 8-figure amount of ADA liquidity into Cardano-based DEXs through Flowdesk. The initiative is intended to enhance liquidity for the USDA and USDM stablecoins, improve market depth, and reduce slippage. This move represents another step toward the broader adoption of Cardano DeFi while improving the trading experience for both individual users and institutions. On-chain data shows some early signs of improvement. As of July 25, 2026, the stablecoin market capitalization on Cardano stood at approximately $63 million, representing an increase of more than 17% over the previous 30 days. However, compared with the global stablecoin market, which is valued at more than $300 billion, Cardano's stablecoin ecosystem remains relatively small. Liquidity on Cardano is beginning to improve, but a significant gap remains before the ecosystem can compete with the blockchains currently leading the DeFi market. Beyond DeFi and interoperability, Cardano is also pursuing more real-world applications, expanding the blockchain's potential role across a wider range of industries. Several positive pieces of ADA news released recently also reflect this direction. In June, the Cardano Foundation announced a partnership with Senai São Paulo focused on blockchain education and industrial experimentation. It also launched a 3-year program with the Brazilian Olympic Committee involving identity solutions, data certification, and transparent governance. These initiatives are consistent with Cardano's long-term strategy, but most of them are still in the experimental or early implementation stages. Overall, Cardano Crypto already has many of the elements needed to begin a new phase of growth. However, its greatest challenge is no longer creating development plans. The real challenge is turning those plans into practical applications, capital inflows, and genuine demand for ADA crypto. The opportunity is still there, but Cardano needs to deliver clearer results after several years of relatively slow development. Whether these changes will be enough to support an ADA Cardano price prediction that sees the coin return to $1 will depend on whether ADA can overcome several important price zones along the way. At its current price of around 16 cents, the ADA token clearly cannot return to $1 with just a short-term rebound. To get there, the price must first reclaim several key levels it has lost, while also showing that buying pressure is returning in a sustainable way. The first major obstacle lies between $0.22 and $0.30. This area previously served as a long-term support zone, holding ADA up multiple times between 2022 and 2024. However, after the price broke below this range in 2026, the former support has now turned into resistance. As a result, ADA must not only recover this range but also break above $0.30 and hold it consistently to show that buyers are gradually regaining control. If the price continues to get rejected here, the recovery could still prove to be nothing more than a short-term bounce. from around $0.16, ADA would need to gain nearly 38% to reclaim 22 cents and almost 87% to reach 30 cents. That alone would already represent a significant recovery in any ADA analysis. Even so, returning to this range would still not put ADA anywhere close to $1. The next major test comes around 43 cents to 50 cents. Among these levels, 43 cents is particularly important because it marks ADA's highest price from the beginning of 2026 up to the present, while 50 cents is a key psychological level in the market's ADA Cardano price prediction expectations. However, staying above 50 cents will require more than just market optimism. Liquidity, DeFi activity, and the number of active users on Cardano must improve as well. Otherwise, any rally could remain heavily dependent on speculative capital and fade quickly once money starts rotating out of altcoins. On the other hand, if the ecosystem begins delivering measurable results, the 50-cent level could become the foundation for a much larger recovery. At that point, bullish momentum would no longer be driven solely by expectations of a rebound, but also by the tangible progress Cardano is making. That is exactly what ADA needs before entering its toughest challenge, reclaiming the $1 level. In 2025, ADA briefly broke above $1 and climbed to nearly $1.20. However, it failed to hold above that level for long and quickly fell back below it. A later recovery pushed ADA just slightly above $1 again before the price weakened once more. This price action suggests that reaching $1 is not the hardest part. The real challenge is maintaining a stable position above it. If ADA manages to reclaim the $1 level in 2026, selling pressure could increase rapidly. Investors who bought around that price may use the opportunity to break even or exit their positions, while those who accumulated at lower levels may also begin taking profits. If Cardano fails to generate enough new demand to absorb this selling pressure, ADA could repeat what happened in 2025, briefly moving above $1 before losing momentum once market enthusiasm fades. For the next return to $1 to be different, ADA will need support from both the broader crypto market and Cardano's own growth drivers. Network upgrades and planned improvements must continue to roll out successfully, liquidity and on-chain activity need to expand, and treasury funding must translate into real products and real users. More importantly, these developments must increase demand for ADA itself. Even if the ecosystem grows, the impact on price could remain limited if that growth does not create stronger demand for the coin. In other words, ADA's path back to $1 involves three major challenges: reclaiming the former support zone between $0.22 and $0.30, breaking above the recovery highs around $0.43 and the key psychological level of $0.50, and finally returning to and maintaining a stable position above $1. For that reason, rather than concluding that ADA has entered a new bull cycle after just a few recovery rallies based on Cardano technical analysis, investors should pay close attention to how the price reacts at each of these critical levels. However, price action is only part of the story. The Cardano ecosystem is still expanding at a relatively slow pace, has yet to establish a strong competitive position against many rival blockchains, and continues to face skepticism from the market. Therefore, the real question is not only whether ADA can return to $1, but also whether Cardano news will provide enough evidence to convince the market that it deserves to stay above that level. What do you think about ADA's chances of reclaiming the $1 milestone in 2026? Do you believe it's a realistic scenario? Share your thoughts on the latest Cardano news today in the comments below so we can discuss it together. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Crypto Radar, and turn on notifications so you never miss our future crypto analysis. And as always, please remember that the content shared in this video is based on my own research and personal opinions and should not be considered financial or investment advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions and invest responsibly. Crypto Radar disclaims all responsibility related to the results of your transactions and your assets. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video here on Crypto Radar.